Even winning a single PGA Tour tournament for consecutive seasons is a big deal for golfers. Have you ever wondered which of them has managed to get that title? We look at these records in two ways. First, the most consecutive years with a win, and second, the most consecutive seasons with a win. In this video, we'll talk about some golfers with a solid PGA winning tour winning streak. First off, Dustin Johnson with most seasons in a row PGA win. Dustin Johnson didn't win any tournaments in 2014, but he did win one game at the end of the 2013-2014 PGA Tour season. For this record, the wraparound schedule's the key to telling the difference between a year and a season. Most of the time, in the history of the PGA Tour, the season took place in the same year. For example, all of the games in the 1955 season were played in 1955. But starting in the fall of 2013, the PGA Tour switched to a schedule called a wraparound. So, the tour season started in one year and went on into the next. The 2013-2014 PGA Tour season began at the end of 2013 and continued until the middle or end of 2014. Johnson's streak of winning every year ended in 2014. But because he won in 2013, in the 2013-2014, and in 2014-2015, his streak of winning every season in a row is still going strong. It ended when Johnson left the PGA Tour for LIV Golf in the 2021-2022 season. He's even dominated the LIV Golf Series since it began. In the first 5 events, he came in 8th, tied for 3rd, tied for 2nd, and tied for 2nd. And he managed to do this even though he doesn't have the same drive as some of his fellow LIV golfers to play on other tours that offer OWGR points. Up next, Jack Nicklaus with 17 years of at least one PGA win in a row. Nicklaus had a run of 17 years in which he won at least twice every year. His first win was at the US Open in 1962, and his last was at the IVB Philadelphia Golf Classic in 1978. Many golf experts say that he's the best golfer of all time. He won 73 times on the PGA Tour. That is the 3rd best score of all time, after Tiger Woods and Sam Snead. But among Nicklaus's 73 wins, 18 were major championships, which is the most ever. He won a PGA Tour tournament for the first time in 1962, and the last time in 1986. He also won 7 tournaments in a single PGA Tour season, a number he hit more than once. The player won at least once on tour every year from 1962 to 1978. This is tied for the most years in a row that a player has won on tour. By the time he turned 50, he had started to play on the Champions Tour, which is for older golfers. But Nicklaus didn't play much on that tour, so his 10 wins don't put him very high on the list of Champions Tour winners. 8 of those wins were in senior majors, which was the record for a long time, followed by Arnold Palmer with 17 years of at least one PGA win in a row. Palmer won only once in 1955, 1965, and 1970, out of a total of 17 years. His first win during this time was the Canadian Open in 1955, and his last was the National Team Championship in 1971. Still, he's won 61 times in a row, and 7 of those wins were majors. We wouldn't be lying if we said that he's probably one of the best at what he does. The American pro golfer won the PGA Tour 62 times, including 7 major championships, but his lengthy list of aces makes his long and successful golf career stand out. So, the total distance of his aces is 3,305 yards, or 1.8 miles. He's made aces in 11 states and 2 countries, with every club except the driver and the putter. His best time was from 1960 to 1963, when he won 29 titles and almost $400,000, even though the purses were minor compared to what they are now. A national poll by the Associated Press named him Athlete of the Decade for the 1960s. Before, during, and after that great decade, the famous golfer won 92 national or international professional championships. Moving on to Billy Casper with 16 years of at least one PGA win in a row. The runner-up in this record category started his winning streak at the Labatt Open in 1956 and ended it at the Kaiser International Open Invitational in 1971. He won 48 times on the PGA Tour during that streak, including 3 majors. Billy Casper's name doesn't usually come to mind when people talk about the best golfers. He was at his best as a golfer in the late 1950s and the 1960s when Nicklaus, Palmer, and Player were known as golf's Big Three. During Casper's career, he often felt overlooked because the media never stopped talking about golf's Big Three. He won 51 times on the PGA Tour and 3 major championships over 20 years. That's an average of 2.55 wins per year for Casper throughout his career. What does that mean? Well, just look at how Nicklaus won an average of 2.9 tournaments per year throughout his career. Even more impressive is that Casper's best years as a golfer were from 1958 to 1970, when he won 44 PGA Tour events, which is a fantastic average of 3.38 wins per year. Sure, he might not have as many significant wins as the Big Three, but we can't forget that he did win more PGA Tour events than Palmer, Player, and Nicklaus at one point in the 1960s. Next, Ben Hogan. Even though Hogan won 9 major championships in only 16 major tournaments, he was the best golfer for a long time. This is clear from how well he did in majors from 1940 to 1956. Hogan played during a time when players didn't compete in all 4 majors in the same year. Sadly, he was thrown off his game by an injury. The British Open in 1953 would be Hogan's last major. In the 1954 Masters, he lost to Sam Snead in a playoff. He also lost the US Open in 1955 in a playoff to an unknown player named Jack Fleck. His last real chance to win a major was at the 1960 US Open. From the 1999 PGA Championship to the 2002 US Open, on the other hand, Tiger Woods was the best golfer in the world. Woods won 7 majors in his first 11 tries, which is an incredible record, but it doesn't match the percentage of wins that Hogan had. World War II and the car accident took away years of his life. Even if the PGA Championship were a stroke play event, he wouldn't have stopped playing in it. Hogan was always good for a long time, but he didn't get to play in 4 majors every year as Nicklaus did. Last but not least, Tiger Woods. Between 2006 and 2007, Woods won 7 straight PGA Tour events. This is the second longest winning streak after Byron Nelson ran 11 consecutive wins in 1945. Woods has also won 6 games in a row and 5 games in a row. He's also the only player in the last 62 years to have won more than 4 straight PGA Tour events. In an era where 2 wins are considered a lot, the fact that Woods was able to win one after another over several months shows how much better he was than his competitors when he was at his best. Finally, Byron Nelson. Have you ever wondered which was the most well-known year for a golfer on the PGA Tour? Or what was the best year any PGA Tour golfer ever had? Byron Nelson in 1945 is an answer that comes to mind right away for both of these questions. Nelson did many great things in 1945, and maybe only Tiger Woods' season in 2000 has a chance of competing with that. In 1945, he took part in 30 PGA Tour events. He won 18, the most in a single season in Tour history. The golfer won 11 tournaments in a row at one point, again making him the best of all time. Some of the records he set for scoring have stood for decades. He only won a single major championship at the 1945 PGA Championship, but his winning streak ended 2 weeks after he won the Canadian Open at the Memphis Invitational. Nelson came in 4th, 6 strokes behind the winner, who was still an amateur named Fred Haas. Before Nelson won 11 times in a row, the most wins in a row on the PGA Tour was 3. 3 straight wins had been done before, including by Nelson in 1944 and Sam Snead in 1945. So, when Nelson won the Durham Open in 1945, it was his 4th tournament in a row. He'd already set a new tour record. Then he kept going and going until he reached 11. And that's a wrap for this video. Which of these golfers is your personal favorite? Do you think a consecutive PGA winning streak measures their skills? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this. We'll see you in the next one.